Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? Hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, this is where we last left off, right? We were talking about the top real world asset projects by social activities, and we can see Zebec is absolutely smashing it. Now, I do want to mainly focus on technical analysis because I did not do this in the previous video. So yeah, look, this is where we left off, right? Zebec is absolutely everywhere on the socials, right? You don't need to spam the most amount of posts to be getting the most amount of interactions. Clearly, we have the best ratio, 1.62K posts for 1.48 million interactions. Okay, absolutely fantastic. That is what it's all about. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, right? We're going to dive into very, very quickly. We see we're ranked 140 out of 9,500 active cryptos, 407 million market cap, 15 million volume in the last 24 hours. When we go and look at everything, we can see Bitcoin is seeing a little bit of a recovery, right? I want to dive into Bitcoin just for 30 seconds before we dive into Zebec, right? We can see last week we had a fantastic week for Bitcoin. This week we are selling off a little bit, but that is okay. I will be monitoring Bitcoin to see how it's going to be reacting off this 123K zone, right? If it rejects it, then we most likely will be going further down. If not, then, ladies and gentlemen, we could be seeing further pumps. In terms of our beloved Zebec, right? I talked about in the last video, right? Or not the last video, technically the last video with technical analysis, that I expected a little bit of a pull up, but overall for us to be selling off. And that is exactly what is happening. We had a very, very small minor pull up, but then we continued to sell off, right? We continued to sell off. And for me right now, as of right now, the structure does not look too convincing. When we go and look at the Zebec analysis, we can see, ladies and gentlemen, right, we were kind of in this tight trend, right? Obviously, it's a very small trend, very, very short-lived, but it still matters. We can see we started to lose buying pressure, right? We failed to go up for, let's just say for 12 hours. And after 12 hours, we just kind of gave out. Boom, big sell-off. We broke structure, right? We do something like this. We broke the structure over here, right? We closed down here. We closed below this zone, and we can see, right, we kind of just kept on selling off. Now, we did have a little bit of buying pressure. We did react off of the zone, we can see, but it was very, very short-lived, and we continued to sell off. Now, the last 12 hours of selling pressure are not the craziest, to be honest. Right? If we just overall take it from here to here, it's like 3.5%, a little bit more in the last 12 hours. So that is not the craziest. We could be potentially seeing some type of attempt to go up, at least even short term. And the reason why I say that, ladies and gentlemen, is because there is a decent amount of structure right over here. And if I actually put this a little bit higher like that, boom, right, we can see we're kind of at a nice zone. We're kind of at a nice zone. We tap multiple times, boom, 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 boom. So this 0.0044, we could see a little bit of a movement to the upside. The structure in terms of the hourly is not convincing at all, to be honest. Right now, we pretty much do have a double bottom right here. Now, it's not really too convincing. Like I said, the selling pressure is quite strong. We could see a little bit of a bounce up, but most likely what would happen is a bounce up to the 0.00447 and most likely a continuation sell-off, right? I say most likely because we have to see for confirmation, but we could see that, when we did try to go up even for 3 hours, we got destroyed within 2 hours. So there's still a good amount of selling pressure, right? Obviously, it's slowing down a little bit. When we go to the major zones, like something like the daily candles and such, we can see, ladies and gentlemen, right, one of the key reasons we start to sell off is we got a doji, we got reversal signs, and yeah, we broke out of the zone. And in terms of the daily, I mean, I still have conviction that on the higher time frame, we will be taking out this zone ultimately. I'm just convinced, right? Right now, we do have evidence that we will be going lower and lower. When we go into the look at the weekly, we can see that in terms of the swing points, right, we haven't actually closed higher. So although we had a great, fantastic week for Zebec last week, right, huge candle, huge weekly candle, boom, something like this, roughly 40%. in terms of the actual zones at the edges, right? In terms of the swing points, we have not created a higher swing point, right? Boom, these are the edges, boom, right over here. So we can see, ladies and gentlemen, that we have not created a higher swing point. So that's the main thing overall that we're looking for, Zbec, is next buying candle in terms of the weekly or just in general. We really want to flip eventually to 0.00497 to pretty much have a higher swing point. Okay. And we can see there is some nice liquidity down here. And this is how it's most likely going to play out. If we kind of have a weak selling candle here, then we most likely next week will see some continuation pumps. If the selling pressure continues for the rest of the week and we kind of go back down at least, let's just say to 0.0038 zone, then there's a very high probability that we do sweep this whole area that I've been talking about for a very long time now, right? Now, obviously, like I know, some of this is speculation, but in terms of technical analysis, definitely the short term, we are seeing sells. This coming back down to here, this is speculation. This is speculation. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, I said Zbec network is very, very manipulated, right? And a coin that's manipulated does, it does the stuff that pisses people off, like all these traders, where it'll take out certain zones. It'll try to, sweep people's stop losses. And I know this is some that like the advanced stuff that I'm talking about right now. It's a little bit more advanced. It's and some people might call it conspiracy theory even for trading. But I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, right? I've been in the game for a long time. Even here before we officially went up with Zebec, I mean, look how much liquidity there was here, right? We had all of this liquidity here. You had liquidity, sorry, you had liquidity over down here too, right? You had all this liquidity. We took it all out, right? We went back, we took out this zone, we took out this zone. We didn't go below this zone, but that's fine. But then look, right, the moment right after we manipulate and pretend we're going to the downside and we take out these two zones, we just start shooting up. Look how fast it is, right? We start shooting up. So that's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Right? And like I said before, Zebec it's in the system. This coin is manipulated, which is why I love it. It's so fundamental and it's so manipulated. For me, it's such a beautiful thing to see as a trader. I know some of you guys might not be a fan of the fact that it is manipulated, but guys, I said it, your coin's not getting manipulated, it's not going to get pumped, right? So this is just a game. This is just the name of the game. Sometimes things will get stalled out. We think, oh, this is it. This is the pump. But then no, it's like there's more manipulation, there's more stalling out, there's more delays. But ladies and gentlemen, right, the only thing I recommend you guys doing, which obviously not a financial advisor, but it's just dollar cost averaging at low prices if you're willing to risk your money like this, and just be patient, right? At the end of the day, we don't control the markets. It doesn't matter how much you and I talk about Zebec. We don't have influence, right? We're not the people that deliver very, very big money into the system. Anyways, this is all a game, ladies and gentlemen, right? The moment you realize this is a game is the moment you become more calm, okay? It's the moment you realize, you know what? I just can do what I can do, and the rest is just up to the markets, and it's up to probability. It's up to, what the evidence suggests, and that's it, right? That is it. That is why I always just buy, when price is low, I just buy. And then if price goes even lower, well, I just continue to buy, right? I just continue to buy it because I know ultimately where Zebec is going to be in the next few months, the next year, in the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, right? Ladies and gentlemen, remember, if this was a stock, this probably wouldn't even move that much. Stocks don't move in that much in general. Of course, there's a few anomalies, but people used to make a couple percent off a stock every year. They used to make 50% after so many years. Gotta remember, Zebec moved 40% in the last week. So there's going to be a lot of volatility. There's going to be a lot of manipulation, but you have to realize the upside potential for something like Zebec and crypto is super, super high. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be monitoring to see if we will be sweeping the 0.00357 zone. And that is it. I love you guys so much, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye. Ladies and gentlemen, the time to get serious is now. The next few months are going to be the most crucial time of your lives. Okay. We're going to have crypto exploding. And this is the time to get a portfolio review. Right? You got to make sure you have the right cryptos. You don't want any old or dead coins, or you don't want anything that can give you little profits, right? So we provide a portfolio review. We've also been smashing it with the high probability meme coins. We hit an 11x, an 8x, and 5.5x in recent times. We also provide a weekly report on the crypto data, on the crypto analysis, and of course, ladies and gentlemen, on other altcoins as well. You get all this and a bunch more other benefits. Highly recommend joining the private community. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make some money.